यस बनते जी।
नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। इतिपिसो भगवारहं सम्मा संबुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरिसदम्म सारथि सत्ता देव मनुष्याणां बुद्धो भगवाति। नमो तस्स सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। ये च बुद्धा अतीता च ये च बुद्धा अनागता पच्युपन्ना च ये बुद्धा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं गण्यं बुद्धो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं पादपंसो वरुत्तमं बुद्धेयो कलितो दोषो बुद्धो कमतु तं मम। बुद्धं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो संदिटीको अकालिको एहि पश्चिको वपनायको पच्छतं वेदितव्यो विन्नुहीति। नमो तस्स नियानिकस्स धम्मस्सा। ये च धम्मा अतीता च ये च धम्मा अनागता पच्छुपन्ना च ये धम्मा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं गण्यं धम्मो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं धम्मं च विदुत्तमं धम्मेयो कलितो दोषो धम्मो कमतु तं मम। धम्मं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसंगो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसंगो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसंगो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसंगो। यदिदं चत्तारि पुरिसयुगानि अट्टपुरिसपुग्गल एषा भगवतो सावकसंगो। आहुनेयो पाहुनेयो दक्षिणेयो अञ्जलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यखेतं लोकस्याति। नमो तस्स अट्ट अर्य पुग्गला महासंगसा। ये च संगा अतीता च ये च संगा अनागता पच्युपन्ना च ये संगा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं गण्यं संगो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं संगं च विदुत्तमं संगेयो कलितो दोषो संगो कमतु तं मम। संगं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। विपत्ति पटिवाहाय सब्ब संपत्ति सिद्धिय सब्ब दुःखं विनाशाय सब्ब भयं विनाशाय सब्ब रोगं विनाशाय भवे दीर्घायुकदायक सब्ब लोकं हितत्ताय परित्तं बनामहे। समन्ता चक्रवालेषु अत्र गच्छन्तु देवता सद्धम्मं मुनिराजसा सुनन्तु सग्गमोक्तदं। धम्मस्सवन कालो अयं बदन्ता धम्मस्सवन कालो अयं बदन्ता परितस्सवन कालो अयं बदन्ता। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। एवं मे सुतं एकं समयं भगवा सावतीयं विहरति जेतवने अनाथपिण्डिकस्य आरामे तत्र को भगवा भिक्खु अमन्तेसि भिक्खवोति वदन्तेति ते भिक्खु भगवतो पच्चसोऽसु भगवा ये तदवोच। भूतपुब्बं भिक्खवे देवासुरसङ्गमो समूपबुल्हो अहोसि अतको भिक्खवे सक्को देवनमिन्दो देवे तावतिंसे अमन्तेसि सचे मारिसा देवानां सङ्गामगतानाम् उपज्जय्या भयं वाचं वितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा। ममेव तस्मिन् समये दजगङ्गुलोकयाता ममं हि वो दजगङ्गुलोकयातं यं भविष्यति भयं वाचं वितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा सोपहिष्यति। नोचे मेद जगंगुलोकयाता अथ प्रजापतिस्स देवराजस्य दजगंगुलोकयाता प्रजापतिस्स हि वो देवराजस्य दजगंगुलोकयातं यं भविष्यति भयं वाचं वितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा सोपहिष्यति। नोचे प्रजापतिस्स देवराजस्य दजगंगुलोकयाता अथ वरुणस्य देवराजस्य दजगंगुलोकयाता वरुणस्य हि वो देवराजस्य दजगंगुलोकयातं यं भविष्यति भयं वाचं वितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा सोपहिष्यति। नोचे वरुणस्य देवराजस्य दजगङ्गुलकयाता अथ ईशानस्य देवराजस्य दजगङ्गुलकयाता ईशानस्य हि वो देवराजस्य दजगङ्गुलकयातं यं भविष्यति भयं वा चम्बितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा सोपहिष्यतीति तङ्कोपनभिक्कवे सक्कस्य वा देवनमिन्दस्य दजगङ्गुलकयातं प्रजापतिस्य वा देवराजस्य दजगङ्गुलकयातं वरुणस्य वा देवराजस्य दजगङ्गुलकयातं ईशानस्य वा देवराजस्य दजगङ्गुलकयातं यं भविष्यति भयं वा चम्बितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा सोपहीयेतापि नोपि पहीयेत तंकिस्स हेतु सक्को हि विक्कवे देवनमिंदो अवीतरागो अवीतदोषो अवीतमोहो बीरुचंबि उत्रासि पलायीति अहंचको भिक्कवे एवं वदामि सचेतुमहाकं भिक्कवे अरण्यगतानां वा रुक्कमूलगतानां वा शून्यागारगतानां वा उपज्जय्या भयं वा चम्बितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा ममेव तस्मिन् समये अनुसरय्याता इति पिसो भगवारहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरिसदम्म सारथि सत्ता देव मनुष्यानां बुद्धो भगवाति ममं हि वो भिक्कवे अनुसरतं यं भविष्यति भयं वा चम्बितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा सोपहीष्यति नोचे मंगनुसरय्याता तदम्मंगनुसरय्याता स्वाक्कातो भगवता दम्मो संदिटीको वकालिको हिपस्सिको अपनायिको पच्छत्तं वेदितव्यो विन्नुहीति तमं हि वो भिक्कवे अनुसरतं यं भविष्यति भयं वा चम्बितत्वं वा लोमहंसो वा सोपहीष्यति नो चेदम्मङ्गनुसरय्याथा संगङ्गनुसरय्याथा सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक नोचिदम्मङ्गनुसरयाता संगङ्गनुसरयाता सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो इदं करणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यकेत्तं लोकस्याति संगं हि वो भिक्कवे अनुसरतं यं भविष्यति भयं वा चम्बितत्तं वा लोमहंसो वा सोपहीष्यति तंकिस्स हेतु तथागतो हि भिक्कवे अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो वीतरागो वीतदोषो वीतमोहो अवीरु अच्छम्बि अनुत्रासि विपलायीति इदं अवोच भगवा इदं बत्वा सुगतो अतापरं एतदवोच सत्ता अरण्ये रुक्कमूले वा शून्यागारे व भिक्कवो अनुसरेत सम्बुद्धं भयं तु महाकं नोसिया नोच बुद्धं सरय्याता लोकजेट्टं नरासभं अथादम्मं सरय्याता नियानिकं सुदेशितं नोचदम्मं सरय्याता नियानिकं सुदेशितं अथ संगं सरय्याता पुण्यकेत्तं अनुत्तरं एवं बुद्धं सरन्तानं धम्मं संगं च भिक्खवो भयं वा चम्बितत्तं वा लोमहं सो न हस्ततीति एतेन सच्चवज्जेन सोतिनो होतु सब्बद एतेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु नो जय मङ्गलम् एतेन सच्चवज्जेन पातु नो रतनत्तयं सब्बित्यो विवर्जन्तु सब्बरोगो विनश्यतु माते भवत्वन्तरायो सुखी दीर्घायुको भवतु सब्बमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सब्बदेवता सब्बबुद्धानुभावेन सब्बधम्मानुभावेन सब्बसङ्घानुभावेन सदा स्वस्ति भवन्तु ते इमिना पुण्याकम्मेन मामे बालसमागमो सतं समागमो होतु यावन्निब्बानपत्तिया इदं मे पुण्याकम्मं आसवक्कयं वहं होतु सब्बदुःखापमुच्यतु निब्बान संपच्चयो होतु साधु साधु। Okay, so today's topic is like understanding the fears. Of course, again, we will see the fears from what happens in the body when a person is struck with fear. What are the causes of fear? The external causes and the internal causes of fear, and the different approaches to handle these different kinds of fear, the religious approaches, the scientific approaches, the medical approaches, the psychological approaches, the right view approaches to handle fear. So these things also we'll see, but it is a very elaborate subject, and maybe so many weeks also we can discuss for so many Dhamma talks. This can be the topic, but now we just generalize just for half an hour or 1 hour. We will see about the general classification of fears and the general approach, maybe with some religious and right view approaches to handle fear. And there is something called good fears also. What is it? What does it mean? Generally, fear means we think it is negative. It creates problem for the mind, problem for the body, problem for our behavior, problem, and it leads to so many psychological issues, psychosomatic psychological issues. The fears accumulated, they become phobias. The different kinds of fears, like some fears, there is no meaning for it, there is no sense in it. Many times they are called like irrational fears. And for some fears, you don't know the cause of some unknown fears. Many fears you can know and you can find out on this is the cause, this is the outcome of this situation, the form of fear. But for some kind of fears, there is you can't find out what is the cause and what is the reason, what is the origin of this fear. And for some fears, they're absolutely irrational. You say for some people, uh, uh, say the heights, let us say. For some people, the fear of heights, let us say. So it looks very irrational kind of thing. Now there are different phases, there are varieties of fears we can see in the world. For some people, silence creates fear. For some people, noise creates fear. For some people themselves are like they are the source of. For some people, loneliness is fearsome. In that way, many fears, they don't have any rationality. So in that way, psychologists, they're working so much on these fears. A lot of research is going on. The medical reasons they're trying to find out. Amygdala, there is one part in the brain, somewhere near the pituitary, somewhere near inside the brain, near the pituitary, there is one organ called amygdala. And that secretes some chemicals that creates a lot of problem for the body also. The fear secreted by these fear chemicals secreted by this amygdala, it creates a lot of problems to the body. It will affect your heartbeat, your digestion, your say production of lot of your hormones. This endocrine system will be affected because of fears. what kind of fear will trigger the secretion of these chemicals, will affect your different systems, the nervous system, the circulatory system, your heart function, your lungs, so many systems will be affected by these different kinds of fears. A lot of work is going on. And what are the different medicines that can fix this impact of this amygdala secretion in the body? Uh, So in that way, they're trying to fix the problems, the physical problems that a person going to experience with the fears. And of course, there are so many behavioral therapies, behavioral, say, therapeutic systems. They're trying to find out, and they're trying to recommend, like this cognitive behavior, the very cognition itself. So when you cognize, when you perceive a uh, a rope as a snake. So if your very cognition, where observation is wrong, so how to make your observation more objective, more confident, more say clear, not having some kind of unclear or distorted perception, distorted cognition. How to come out of it? Of course, all these awareness techniques, awareness meditations, this right view awareness meditations will fix that cognition problem, noting the things as they are, not corrupting with your own, say, corrupted thinking, corrupted knowledge, or corrupted fears, just to note the things as they are. Corrupted I-ness and minus, that is the biggest corruption. Strongly hold on to this I-ness and minus. With that corruption, whatever you start cognizing, whatever you start observing, you may observe it, you may cognize it in a wrong way. That may lead to so many kinds of fears. So we'll come to our right view, say, treatment or right view approach to fix fears a little later. So in that way, the psychologists also, they're designing so many ways and means to identify the fears, classify them, and what is its impact on the body, the biology of fears they're trying to say find out, and the different medicines, different therapies that will help in fixing the very origin, the very creation, very generation of fears. And of course, after a person go through this fear, and just to avoid its physical impact, they're of course manufacturing different kinds of medicines. That way, a lot of work is going on in this field of fears, fear psychology, fear biology, fear pharmacology. There's a lot of work going on. Of course, a few things we will see. This scientific aspect also. Then the religious aspect of fears we will see. And in this religious aspect, and also in this right view approach to fears, there the good fears also will come into picture. Good fears will help you to fix your bad fears. Just like the good mental factors in the mind, they will help us to fix the bad mental factors, the unwholesome mental factors. The good fixes the evil, the good fixes the bad, the wholesome fixes the unwholesome. If you properly understand and cultivate the wholesome. The same way, if you understand the good fears, and with that, there is a possibility of fixing the bad fears. And the good fears will help you in so many other aspects also. So those things we will see when we take up this, when we start discussing this religious approach and also the right view approach. But of course, there are some limitations in this religious approach also. So many religious approaches will fix some kind of fears, but they may create another kind of bad fears. So again, to handle that, so we will learn the right view approach of fixing all kinds of fears authoritatively in an integrated way. So we will see as much as possible in today's talk, and if possible, we will continue this series of talks on fears because it will be of much use for everyone because everyone is struck with some or the other kind of fears. So understanding correctly, deeply, authoritatively, comprehensively these fears, their origin, it may have some use. So in motivating ourselves to practice the different ways and means to fix fears and to come out of fears, it may help. So with that intention, with that idea, we will see first uh, the uh, the seven kinds of fears that generally people uh, go through, and also the psychologists they they discuss about these seven kinds. Of course, there are so many ways and means they have classified the fears. They have classified the causes, the fears based on causes, the fears based on say the origin, fears based on the situations, different situations. They have classified the fears into so many categories. But now, just one kind of classification, which is of some relevance for today's talk, that we will see now. So as I was telling you, these fears, when they aggravate, when they become a little bit intensified, little bit strong, then they become phobias, like phobia. And most of the phobias, the intensified fears, they are irrational. Many of the phobias are irrational. Irrational means what? We can't rationalize why these fears, from where they have originated. They don't make any sense. You don't correctly trace the root of that fear and you can't fix it. So such kind of fears only they become phobias. Claustrophobia, like say the closed spaces or some dark places, you develop some kind of fear. So the root of most of the fears is actually in two kinds of major fears. That is the fear of death, fear of losing this body, and the other fear is the fear of failure, the fear of say uh, other people's say reaction to your behavior, other people's what the other people will talk about. They may tease you, they may laugh at you. So that kind of fear of losing that self-respect, losing that self. So this Bhavatanaha that I used to tell the classes, strongly attached to your body, strongly attached to this sinus and minus. That is actually the main reason why people have to go through different kinds of things, because they don't want to give up this body or bodily senses, sense desires, the kama tanaha. They don't want to give it up. Because of that, there are so many kinds of fears. And the second main category is that I-ness and minus, the name of say self-respect, same name of self-respect. Generally, people stick on to or stuck on to the ego, I-ness and minus. So anything that harms that will create fear. So main reason for these all kinds of fear is this kamatanaha and bhatanaha. And some people who are little philosophical, deeply thinking, and if they have realized that very body and mind, that very existence is full of dukkha, and because of that, they develop a lot of fear about very living itself. Then the third kind of tanaha will come into picture, that is vibhava tanaha. They want to escape from this bondage of body and mind. That is the vibhava tanaha. Because of that, vibhava tanaha means like escape from this body, and that desire, that intense desire to escape from this body and mind. So for such people also, some kind of very deep desire, deep fears will come that we will not touch today's topic. So now we are focusing on this, the fears because of our kamatanaha, our intense attachment to our sensuality and bodily pleasures, body and bodily pleasures. That is that will create a lot of fears for us, because we may lose body, we may lose bodily pleasures. So that is the main reason for this kamatanaha fears. And bhavatanaha fears about our ego, about our I-ness and minus, what other people think about me. They may laugh at me if I fail, if I show my ignorance, if I show my inefficiency, if I show my inability, incapability, then the people may laugh at me. That kind of fears, they mainly come under this group of fear of failures. The kamatanaha fears, they come under the group of fear of death. So fear of death and fear of failures are the two major groups of fears which are rooted in our kamatanaha, and they are rooted in our bhavatanaha. Attachment or desire to body and bodily sensual desires. And the second category is attachment to I-ness and minus, the bhavatanaha fears. So these are the two major kinds of fears. And now, what is the scientific approach of these different fears that we see? So this is one kind of, I don't say that this is the ultimate or the final thing. This is one kind of classification of fears. So there, the classification is there are 7 kinds of fear archetypes. Fear psychosis, fear archetypes means fear models. There are 7 kinds they are talking about. So what are those 7 kinds? The fear of a procrastinator. So the fear of a procrastinator. Procrastinator means what? The fear of procrastinator. Procrastinator means like one who postpones whatever he is supposed to do. So they have one kind of fear. Again, it comes under this fear of failure. So if I do that, I may fail. So that is one deep-rooted fear that troubles this procrastinator. That means a person who always postpones. The procrastinators often obsess over the end product or outcome of whatever they are doing and insist on being perfect. Always they want the perfect result. And they have the fear that they may not get it. They may not get the perfect result. And because of that reason, they feel like postponing that work. So that kind of fear is the fear of the procrastinator. Because of this, they tend to spend too much time in planning and researching instead of simply plunging into, diving into, jump into the action. They simply keep on planning and researching, and they don't put themselves into the action. They don't drive themselves into the action. That is because of the end result. They're a little afraid of the end result. They look for the perfection in the end result. They don't want to end up in the failure. So that's why they procrastinate, and that kind of fear is called the fear of procrastination. They hold themselves back from even getting started in the first place. So that is a little deep rooted. The procrastinator's fear is little deep rooted. That's why even they don't start at all. They don't commence the action at all. In the very first place, even to start the action, they have that fear. That means that fear is deep rooted. For procrastinators, it's important to push past that fear of starting. Getting started may feel like a big hill to climb for them. It's a big obstacle for them to climb. Be careful not to place energy into a perfectly finished product. Instead, use it to troubleshoot an output or initial push. That's what is the solution here. The concept of karma yoga that is being taught in the religious scriptures also, especially in Gita, Bhagavad Gita. Never mind about the end product. Just completely start enjoying your action. Plunge into action and start enjoying. Be passionate about the action. How you can do it skillfully. There only you focus. How skillfully I can perform even the small actions also, and so that I can derive that joy of skillfulness. Karmasu yoga, karmasu kaushalam. Doing anything, any action. Karmasu means action skillfully, like kaushala means like skillfully, how technically, how skillfully, how efficiently I can perform this. There, if you can focus, then that fear of say the end product and the fear of failure, the fear of and this the nature of procrastinators, the fear of procrastinators, that can be overcome. That can one can overcome that one. So in that way, the first kind of fear that they are talking about is the fear of a procrastinator. So that is little deep and intense. Because of that, they don't even start the work. But once you have this psychosis, this kind of say mentality of enjoying the work, of doing the work skillfully, and thereby deriving the joy of skillful working, that only will make you to passionately involved in that work. So that is one kind of solution. Both these psychologists and the religious people, they agree with. The second kind of fear is the fear of the rule follower. The people are so much stuck with the rules. They can't think beyond the rules. Such kind of say very say stereotype minds. They fix on to the rules so adamantly. That also creates so much dependence on the rules, so much consideration to the rules. That also creates some kind of fears. Such people again, they can't think creatively, they can't think innovatively, they can't do the things very skillfully, they can't think out of the box. That freedom is lost from the mind. That kind of closedness that is created in the mind because of this, your too much say commitment to the rule, too much say adherence to the rules. That will make you little blind, and that very blindness, that very rigidness will create some kind of fears, and that kind of fears are called the fear of the rule follower. Just like the fear of the procrastinator, there are the fears of the rule followers. Here also, of course, the person is dedicated to follow the distinct rules and regulations set by those around them. They're obsessed with always trying to make the right decision despite its potential effect on their own success. The best way to overcome this is by leaning into self-compassion. Yeah, one should be a little compassionate to oneself. If I'm troubling myself with this rigid rule, it's like creating some kind of closedness, some kind of force and pressure on myself. So if you have some degree of self-compassion, so then one can come out of this kind of the fear of the rule follower. Of course, in addition to that, you have this knowledge of selfless action or skillful action, karmasu, kaushalam. So that kind of knowledge, if you have, again, this fear of the rule follower can be handled to some extent. It's okay. It need not be my decision should not be always perfect. If it is wrong, also it's okay. That kind of acceptance mind, that kind of metta mind, that kind of loving kindness to yourself, that kind of compassion to yourself is very much necessary to come out of this kind of the fear of the rule follower. Then the fear of the people pleaser. Again, they want to please the people around them to the best possible, in the best possible way. Always their focus is always how to please the people around. They're not bothered about the success, failure, their happiness, their self-interest, self-happiness. They completely ignore. They're simply bothered about how to please each and every fellow around them. You can't please each and every one. That also which one should have, that universal truth also one should have in the mind. Then one will come out of this fear of the people pleaser. When you start pleasing each and every one, then finally you trouble yourself. You trouble your work also. You trouble your efficiency in working also. Those who have the people pleaser archetype, fear, struggle with the fear of being judged and worry most about disappointing others. They always worry about, oh, this may disappoint this fellow, this may disappoint that fellow. So in that way, they're very much bothered about pleasing 1 million people around them. Then so many kinds of fears one will go through. Those fears can be classified under this, the fears of the people pleaser. They have a hard time setting clear boundaries and saying no. Yeah, clear boundaries they can't set. They always try to move the boundaries because they want to please this fellow, they want to please that fellow, then they keep moving the boundaries. And they can't say no also because they want to please the person. So if I say no, they can't please the other person. Because of that reason, they can't say no also. So in that way, the mind becomes over flexible and it creates confusion, tension, and they end up in a, a, a network of fears. The people pleasers, they get trapped into this network of different kinds of fears and they lose the self-confidence. They can't say no also. That is also a tremendous weakness, you see, when you can't say no correctly uh, with an intention of not to hurt the other person. If you are working for one group, one person, then it's okay. But these people, the people pleasers, they want to appease, they want to please each and everyone. That's not possible. If you please 50% people, another 50% people will not be pleased. They will be disappointed. That's how the world functions. If that understanding, if you have, then again it is easy for you to say no to some, yes to some people, and then stick on to your decisions. Not you don't move the boundaries. You don't will not be over flexible. So that's how one can handle this. The fears of the people pleasers. 40% of the people generally they don't practice that self-care. This leads to a lot of confusion. Self-compassion is one thing, but the self-care one should care about one's work, one's vision, one's goals, mm, one's aspirations. One should not sacrifice those things for the sake of pleasing each and everyone around you. So a little bit of self-care, self-interest also should be there. Then you can come out of these fears of say people pleasers. These fears of people pleasers can be handled if you have a little bit of self-care and self-importance, self-respect. Then also you can balance your self-interest with the interests of other people or a few people, not all the people. And the fears of the outcast, those with the outcast archetype. Archetype is that set of fears. Those with the outcast archetype may appear to be fearless on the one side, but on the inside, their biggest fear is rejection. This archetype of outcast or outcast archetype fears. What is their problem? They show off that they don't have fear, but deep inside they have so many kinds of fears of rejection. Again, of course, it's rooted in the fear of failure. All these things will come under the fear of failure. Fears, different kinds of fears of failure. So deep inside, they have this biggest fear of rejection. Therefore, they often try to reject others first to avoid being hurt. They keep on. This is something like opposite of this people pleasers. People pleaser fears. The little opposite of this is this outcast fears. Outcast fears. They try to reject everything, and they show off as if they are very, very courageous, very, very confident and courageous. But deep inside, they have that fear of rejection, and because of that, they start rejecting all others. It's something like opposite of this people pleaser fears. Take the time to ask yourself if you are focusing on the worst case scenario and what some other alternatives may be. So in such a outcast fears, the strategy is like again having clarity. The clarity is the solution. What exactly is my requirement, and based on that, what exactly is my plan, my focus, my path? If you are quite clear about that, those who those who align with your path, your goal, your work, your actions, then you need not say, you need not reject such people. And those who don't align, you reject such people. Then these outcast fears, they can be handled. So outcast fears means like it is like rejecting each and everyone around you, because you want to show off that you don't have any fears, but deep inside you will be having these rejection fears. And before others reject, you are rejecting them. That is what is the hypocrisy that they play. The outcast fear, people with this outcast fear, the people with this show of courage. These outcast fears are because of this show offness, show of courageous people. Though they are not really courageous, they show off that they are having courage because they have this uh, complete insecurity, complete non-clarity in what they are doing, and because of that, they have this fear of rejection. Before they get rejected by others, they keep rejecting others. That is what is the nature of this outcast fears too. And again, to fix this, to come out of this, clarity is the solution. You should be very clear of what you are doing and where you will end up. And if you are not having that kind of clarity in what you are doing, that just follow the person who is having that clarity. Then you can come out of this outcast fears. Then the self-doubter fears. Self-doubter, doubting about oneself. This archetype is dominated by the fear of not being good enough. Those who self-doubt tend to feel insecure about their capabilities. Like, they're not again very clear about their capabilities. They go through this self-doubter fears, and of course, unlike these outcast fears, they don't show off they don't show up as if they are having courage. They don't reject each and everyone around them, but simply they keep that self-doubt themselves, and they create a lot of fears within themselves. They can sometimes find it difficult to put themselves out there, or on the flip side, judge others to mask their own fears. They don't reject and show off, but they may mask their fears. Unlike these outcast fears, they try to show off and they try to uh, behave as if they are bold, and they try to reject others. But here, they simply cover or mask their fears. These self-doubter fears, people with these self-doubter fears. Those who self-doubt are often the hardest workers. They put forth a lot of effort to overcome their fear of not being good at. Yeah, they simply, without skillfulness, they do a lot of hard work. The people with this self-doubt. So that is the nature of this self-doubters. The people having this fear of self-doubters. That is also not the smart way. Too much hard working without skillfulness, without say some thinking about the pros and cons of the actions, the work that they are doing. Again, it will not fetch you the right results, the best results. So for such people, what one should do, they should step outside of their comfort zone. They should think of other alternatives, other efficient ideas, other skillful ideas, and even they can look into others' skillfulness, try to learn from them, emulate some skillful ideas from them. A little bit open to others' skillfulness is also will help these self-doubters to get more clarity about their abilities, and then they come out of that zone of hard work, hardest work, putting for so much pressure without giving sufficient thinking. That is the nature of these people with this self-doubting fears. Then the excuse maker fears. Always they have some excuse. So this excuse maker archetype have difficulty taking responsibility for their life choices. Always they blame others. It's not like rejecting others. It is like they have excuses. They try to protect themselves, and they try to blame other situations, other people. It's a little bit milder version of this outcast fears, these excuse maker fears. Instead of stepping up to lead every once in a while, they find themselves taking a back seat to avoid accountability. Irresponsibility and accountability, not uh, not being accountable. That is the nature of these excuse makers' fears. Because of the excuse makers' fears, the people become irresponsible. The people become they avoid accountability. They allow others to make decisions in their own lives. Yeah, they simply allow other people to interfere their lives because of their irresponsibility. And again, their fears only will multiply. These excuse makers fears. Because if you allow each and every Tom, Dick, and Harry to make decisions for your life, then you will messed up. You will be messed up to a greater extent. Going with the flow can be tempting because then you don't feel responsible for any negative outcomes. The reality of this is that even being passive is a choice. These excuse makers, they become either passive, or they don't, or they simply involve others to take decisions for their life. And they simply become, they go in the flow. They don't think and they don't take responsibility for themselves, for their decisions, for their goals to achieve their success. They don't take responsibility. They simply make excuses and they simply go in the flow. They become either passive, or they go in the flow, or they allow other people to involve in their life's decisions. All these things will create more confusion, and it will multiply their fears. Then again, how to come out of this? Again, being responsible for your life, for your decisions. Again, of course, clarity, focus, all these things. As I used to discuss about the handling the four faculties of the mind in our courses. All those things, all those developing awareness. I will come to it a little later when we start discussing about this right view approach of handling fears. So in that way, these different kinds of fears are, say, defined by the psychologists, scientists, and also this is the general approach of knowing and defining and classifying the fears. And the last one is the fear of a pessimist. So, what is this fear of pessimist? The pessimist archetype struggles with the fear of adversity and hardship due to a past or current trauma or difficulties. Yeah, they have a lot of say past trauma or difficulties that they have gone through, and they became pessimists. And they think that the future actions also will give the same results that they have gone through in the past. That's why they became pessimists. Those who are the pessimist archetype often feel victimized. Yes, they feel victimized, and that's how they become pessimists. Oh, if I do this, I will end up in this kind of failure. I was a victim of that thing that happened last year or 5 years back. So, because of the repeated failures, or that they became pessimists, and the future also they see with the same pessimistic mind. But pessimists can tend to look at the hardships as stop signs or a reason to give up. They see only the difficulties, they are the fault finders, they are the problem finders only. They can't see the solutions. They have lost that ability to see the solutions. And such people will develop these fears of a pessimist. So it's important to practice looking at hardship as a stepping stone or lessons instead of roadblocks. So that kind of solution oriented approach to life, or the path looking approach, not at the obstacle looking or the problem looking approach. If that is gone from your mind, then this pessimistic approach, the fears of a pessimist, they will go away from your mind. So in that way, these seven kinds of fears, uh, generally people say they talk about, or they try to classify. Of course, there is some overlapping also, but all these things you can say they come under these bhavatanaha fears and kamatanaha fears, the fear of death and the fear of failure, especially the fear of failure. Fear of death is little more deep rooted. The vibhavatanaha and bhavatanaha. So this kamatanaha, these strong attachments to body and the bodily senses, especially the sense desires. So they create some kind of fears, And Bhavatanaha, minus and minus, so that kind of strong attachment to minus and minus. Many of these fears that I have discussed now, the classification of the psychologists and the scientists, the different kinds of fears, they come under this Bhavatanaha fears. You see, the Tanaha and the fear, they go together. Tanaha means like craving. The desire and the fear, they always go together. If you understand the desire, and if you see the opposite, the solution of the desire, or how the action that is required to satisfy that desire, if you are clear about that counter, the desire, or the uh, solution to the desire, if you are clear and if you work on that, of course, then there will be no fears. But if you don't know the counter, or if you don't know the solution to your desire and the ways and means to satisfy your desire, and if you don't focus on that action that will help you to satisfy your desire, that if you don't know that and simply keep the desire as a desire, whether it is Bhavatanaha or Kamatanaha, that creates desire with solution will not create fear in you, but desire without solution will create fear in you. To make it simple, desire without the solution of how to satisfy that desire, that creates the fear in you. Of course, now the Kamatanaha, more than Kamatanaha, people I can see are stuck with this Bhavatanaha. There's a lot of minus and minus. It has become too rigid. And if there is some kind of hit if they face for this minus and minus, that very strong craving and attachment to Bhavatanaha, that they can't tolerate. Because of that, people are developing so many kinds of fears. The fear psychosis, most of the fear psychosis around this Bhavatanaha. As far as my understanding, also, if here many people they come for say some counseling and all, they're too rigid that they don't want to even listen to say the person whom they are like asking for some solution, because they think if they listen to them, then their self-respect, their ego of intelligence, ego of their smartness, it will be affected. In that way, they try to move around their own thinking, their own planning, and they end up in more fears. So this connecting to the person where he has the solution for one kind of fear is one of the best solution to handle the fears. That is what we have chanted now. So, the Jagga Sutta. So there, so Buddha says, just like the worldly people, they try to emulate the courage of their leader. Whatever means, if a spiritual seeker, he will look at the spiritual courage of a spiritual guru or spiritual leader. A political uh, uh, leader or a person who wants to become a political leader to achieve something in the politics, let us say, he will look at a political leader who is having more courage, and if he tries to emulate his quality, then he can come out of a lot of fears of failure in his field. Or if a person wants to become a successful lawyer or successful doctor or a successful businessman, if he connects or relates himself to that person and starts to emulate the qualities of that successful person in a particular field, then he can come out of a lot of the fears that go through to achieve success in that particular field. That kind of emulating the qualities of the person who is successful in that particular field, by following, by serving such a person, is one of the ways to come out of the fears, especially in that particular field. That's what is Buddha suggesting in this the Jagga Sutta, to come out of the fears. In the battlefield, so he gives the example of the battlefield. And a soldier, if he develops some kind of fear, then he will remember about his leader, his sergeant, or his commander, who is more courageous. He remembers his qualities and he becomes more courageous. Or he remembers the qualities of his king. So in the same way, in the spiritual field, if a person is having some fears, to progress in the spiritual field, to achieve success in the spiritual field, he will remember the qualities of his spiritual mentor, spiritual teacher, or spiritual, say, reformer, or spiritual founder of that particular, say, movement, whatever it is, philosophy, whatever it is. He will start emulating the qualities of that, and he that develops some kind of what is called the faith. That kind of faith is a powerful tool to come out of the fear, especially in that particular field. Faith don't think that it is only for the spiritual things. Even for the success in any field, in any aspect of the life. But faith is also required. Of course, with a little bit of measuring, a little bit of, say, calculation. If you put faith, and that if it becomes little firm, then a lot of fears will go. Because of that reason, again, all the religious approaches, they say faith will move the mountains. Faith has the ability to move the mountains, because that much courage you will get. That. So to that extent, all your fears will go away. So in that way, so the right faith in any chosen field, with the chosen personalities who have achieved some progress of success in that particular field, if you develop that faith, that will also keep away a lot of fears. That's lost in the present generation. People, they try to become so much independent, but nothing can be learned by the birth itself, by an individual himself. Should open up to some qualities of some people to gain some knowledge or some clarity in the life to achieve success in a particular field. And then later, of course, if it doesn't suit to him, he can give it up. But until the mind matures, develops clarity, develops maturity, one should follow this kind of say, a hierarchy or lineage or some kind of dependence, and that gives you tremendous faith and confidence, and that will keep away a lot of fears. That is one approach. Generally, the religious features of the religious. That is a religious approach. So all religions, almost all religions. So even Buddha also talks about the faith, the right faith in the right view, in the right view approaches, the qualities of this absolute emancipation, this absolute enlightenment, absolute emancipation. If you have firm faith and a set of people or a person who is completely working on that and emulating his qualities will again give you a lot of courage, will keep away a lot of fears. Again, Buddha says the spiritual seekers, you just emulate my qualities, Buddha's qualities, all your fears will go away. Or you emulate the qualities of my teachings, the Dhamma qualities, just start contemplating Dhamma and emulate the qualities of Dhamma. Again, all your fears will go away. Or the people after following me, those who have become the part of my Sangha, the community, those who have seen the enlightenment, the different levels of enlightenment. Just start emulating their qualities. Again, your fears will go away. That way, Buddha also talks about this faith in this. And here, in all these three things, Buddha, Dhamma, or Sangha, the ultimate thing is the emancipation, absolute emancipation. Because of that reason, in India, especially in the Indian subcontinent, all great masters, they emphasized on this ultimate goal of emancipation, the moksha or the nibbana. Whatever may be your field, if you are a businessman, if you are a farmer, if you are a government employee, if you are a military man, if you are a policeman, or if you are a scientist or a doctor or engineer or whatever it may be. So if your ultimate goal is the complete emancipation, that means becoming free from the bondage of this body and mind, complete emancipation is your ultimate goal, then sooner or later, whether you reach it or not, then it will keep you open. It will make you very clear about your actions, and it will make you more intelligent. It will make you more confident, and it will make you to select the right things in the life, which will go in tune with this ultimate goal of liberation. And in that way, you will connect to the right people also. And you develop right faith in the right people also. If you have this understanding of this, the power of the ultimate goal of this emancipation, to understand and to have complete faith in this ultimate goal, then you connect with the people who are having this ultimate goal. In any chosen, it's not just only the renunciates or the people who are meditators, no. Or those who completely dedicated themselves for the spiritual life. No. Even many people who are in the world, they have the inclination towards the spirituality or the ultimate liberation. They balance everything and they succeed in their selected field of their selected profession also. So in that way, you start selecting such right people in your professions also, in social life also, in family life also. Everything will fall in place. That is the beauty of having this ultimate goal of Nibbana. That's what one of the great disciples of Buddha, Venerable Ananda, Bhante Ananda, he says this is like this ultimate goal of Nibbana is such a powerful goal, such a powerful tool to keep you in the right track. Whatever may be your profession, whatever may be your situation, whatever may be your social status, economic status, it will keep you in the right track and it will keep away a lot of your desires, a lot of your fears and desires and insecurities, phobias, and it will pull you sooner or later towards the ultimate goal. And in that very process of you being pulled to the ultimate goal, many of your fears will keep shedding off. So that's what is the right view approach, the right view religious approach to handle all kinds of fears. And again, all our mind purification techniques of all these four faculties of mind, all the awareness techniques keep you in the present moment. See, all the fears, they are protracted, they are pulled, they are stretched away from the present. Your fear of death is like not in the present. You think about, say, tomorrow you are dying, or after 1 year you are dying, then you start fearing about your death. Or maybe after 1 hour you are dying, then you start fearing about. In this very moment, if your mind is there, then the thoughts will not be there. You are in the action mode, you are in the observing mode. Then there is no scope for these thoughts of fear to arise in your mind. So that's why the mindfulness, the presence of mind, the awareness faculty, so many kinds of awareness, say, meditations, you are learning, practicing. So they will keep away this protracting of the mind or stretching of the mind to the future, where the fears will arise. The present moment, the mind in the present moment, that will not create any thoughts or any fears. When it is stretched to the future, then only the fears will arise. Whether it is phobias or fears or any kind of fears. When it is stretched to the future, then only the fear will arise. So when you learn how to, of course, when you are thinking and planning and imagining, you have to stretch definitely. But you should have that ability to come back again to the present moment and relax the present moment. Then automatically the fears will not arise. If you have that ability to come back to the present moment at your will, that's what is this awareness meditation. They're training your mind. That's what the minds are trained by practicing this awareness meditations. So if you see, the ultimate root cause of your fears is the mind being stretched, the mind being pulled to the future or pushed to the future. If it is in the present moment, no fear, no negativity, no defilement, no negative thought in the mind. For that matter, no thought at all. If you go deeply into the present moment, that's what is all the exercise that you are doing in practicing all these samasati or samadhi, the mindfulness techniques, concentration techniques. That's what you are doing. Where you are emptying your mind completely from all kinds of thoughts, making the mind still by being in the absolute center of the time, that is the present moment. So in that way, all the awareness meditations, Yes, meditations, concentration, meditations, the right view concentration meditations. It will help you to come out of fears and all these wholesome feelings of metta, karuna, mudita, upekha also. It will keep away a lot of fears about people, fears about enmity, fears about cruelty, fears about death. So many things will go away by practicing these wholesome feelings also. But all these confidence building techniques, being irresponsible, being lazy, being procrastination, it all comes because of different kinds of fears of failure. Start enjoying the work, start accepting the work, start taking it as my choice, making it as I will, taking responsibility, having goal, correctly setting the goal, all these for paths that we have been trying. So those things also will keep away a lot of fears because very directly they increase your confidence levels. It's a direct level, direct approach to increase the confidence levels. When confidence is there, then there is no scope for fears. And again, the right understanding of what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, what is subha, what is anupasubha, what is say filth, what is beautiful, that clarity, what is permanent, what is not permanent, what is sukha, what is dukkha, what is say soul, what is not soul. So this clarity about these ultimate things like soul, beauty, sukha, and asukha, these four noble truths, so many sanyas, so many perceptions. That will also make your mind very clear in selecting the actions, performing the with complete conviction, uh, completely accepting the actions with complete conviction. That also will keep away all of your fears. So in that way, all these right view techniques, approaches that you are practicing in these different courses of these right view courses, they will keep away your fears very authoritatively, very systematically. So have that confidence that you are in the right path of handling this fears. So that is the right view approach to handling the fears. Religious approach of having faith in that particular teacher and all, it's okay. But if it is not right view, then some other kinds of fears may arise. After some time, you may start repenting of why you have followed that religious approach. Like many terrorists, they listen to some nonsense teachings, radicalized teachings, and they simply start doing some illegal, some violent, anti-national, anti-social activities. Then they start repenting. So it is a problem of some of the religious approaches. So when you blend that religious approach, or when that is very much overpowered by this right view approach, then that clarity, then that conviction, then that compassion, then that consciousness, all these things will develop, and then there is no scope for regretting or repenting or remorse. Then your confidence levels will be much more all the time, here and now, hereafter also. There will be no problem. There will be no negative consequence of my actions. So let me give my 100% in action without any hesitation. That kind of confidence you get. So you will give your 100% in the present moment, present action, present meditation, present talking, present decision making. Then you will be completely free from the fears which generally arise because your mind is protruded to the future. So your inability to uh, say not to get carried away in that protrusion of the mind in the future, that you will achieve. You will bring back your mind to the present moment very authoritative. Then no fears because you are not being carried away in the future. You're not being carried away in the future thoughts. So the fear is nothing but a future thought. So when you are free from that, being away from the future thought, then definitely you are free from the fears because you're completely into the present moment. That is about today's Dhamma talk. I think today this much is enough. If you have some questions, you can ask. And then any questions?
Namaste, Banteji. No specific questions till now, Banteji.
Okay. Okay, so we'll conclude with one small chart. So the summary of this today's talk is the fear is always a future thought. It is not the present thought. It's about something the mind is protruded to something that may happen in the future, maybe in the very next moment also, but not exactly in the present. So once you learn completely how to be in the very present, go deeper and deeper into the very present moment, then lesser and lesser will become your fears. Right mindfulness will keep you in the very present moment, and it will pull back your mind from the future thoughts to the present thought. Thereby, you will be free from all kinds of fears. And all the wholesome feelings like metta, karuna, mudita, upeka also will bring back your mind to the very present moment, and you will be free from the fears. All your confidence building techniques also will bring back to the very present moment. You will be free from fears. And all the right perception techniques also will bring back the mind from the future, and it will keep you in the present moment, and thereby you will be free from the fears. So understand this right. You approach correctly, authoritatively. Then you do not fear the fears. You will be free from the fears. That is the summary of this today's talk. And if possible, we will see about phobias and a few more of the scientific, say, discoveries of scientific observation of fears. Again, some religious approaches. Maybe in future we will see if there is any. Otherwise, I think this much is good enough to handle the fears. Okay, so we will conclude with small. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te sukhi bhaveyan nidukho ahang nitya ahang viya vidacha me sukhi hontu majjata chatavedino imam hikammante dhamme satta hontu sukhi sada tato parancarajyesu चक्रवालेषु जन्तनो साधु साधु